So, hello everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have a very special guest, which is Mariana. She's a great friend of mine, and I thought that it would be interesting, since she's living in Guinea Bissau, to bring her here today to talk a little bit more about her experience and some past volunteering experiences. Right now, I'm interning at the Borgen Project, and this is part of my fundraiser and also an awareness branding campaign that I have been working throughout my whole internship. So without further ado, welcome Mariana, and thank you so much for meeting me and having this interview with me. Would you like to introduce yourself? What are you doing? Who are you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Mariana. I finished college last year. I studied economics with Carolina, and then I decided to take a gap year to explore a little bit more the world, especially developing countries. Since Carolina mentioned, I have already been in Thailand after my first year of college to volunteer in a little province south of Bangkok, Phetchaburi, and it was just mind changing. It literally changed my life. After I've been there, I taught English to children for 6 weeks, and I just understood that the world is not as complicated as we might think, and that there's another side of the world that don't have the same conditions as we do. So then I decided to come to Guinea, where I am right now, also because my grandma is from Guinea, so it's just perfect to combine both because I wanted to explore this side of my family. So that's where I'm heading right now.
And you also have a YouTube channel. Talk a little bit
Yes, and I also have a YouTube channel.
about
Yeah, I should mention that. Right. So after I graduated, I had this thing in my mind that I always have so much inside my head and things that I experience, and that when you just share with one person, it's not as impactful as you share it outside. So I thought, okay, let me take just 1 month to learn about filmmaking, to learn about cameras, and then I can start this journey where it's like a mental clarity journey, because I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do after college, what I wanted to do for my career, where I wanted to live and everything. So I thought I would just take people with me in the rides. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, maybe just my friends watch this, maybe just my mom watches this. But now I actually have, okay, it's still small. I have like around almost 600 subscribers. But it's just, you understand that when you share and when you're vulnerable and you put yourself out there, because I talk a lot about mental health, about struggles, about this career search, which is not just, okay, I don't know where I'm going. It obviously comes with attachments and things that are not easy to overcome, that people relate to you. People feel the same, and you don't feel as you're alone in the world, even though sometimes you might feel like it. But it's just interesting to share from a different perspective and be so open about it.
I will definitely leave the link for your YouTube channel because I really believe that it's a good YouTube channel and you have great content regarding mental health. And we're going through a rough patch with the whole coronavirus situation, and having that kind of comfort even throughout a screen can be helpful for you. So I'll definitely will be leaving the link below for your YouTube channel.
Follow me.
Now, now that we know Mariana, let me just recap a little bit about the Borgen project. So, in a nutshell, we work in educating people and mobilizing people. And we usually have a lot of volunteers, mainly in the United States, but I'm trying to change a little bit that. We have a lot of volunteers that call Congress and their representatives in order to support some acts and bills that go towards international affairs and international aid. So, for example, right now we're trying to advocate and support the Global Health Security Act, which ensures that the United States will send medical and money assistance to developing countries regarding diseases and diseases outbursts. So in some sort of a small way together this, we are trying to fight a next pandemic from occurring. And this is why we're here today. And this is why I thought that it would be interesting to give your point of view since you're living in Guinea right now. It'd be interesting to talk a little bit about that. So starting with your current situation, can you tell me a little bit how it's like to come from a developed country into New Guinea? What were like the cultural shocks that you're feeling right now? What's different and stuff like that?
Wow. Okay, Carolina, that's a great topic which I can talk about and go on forever, because imagine everything you've lived with and all the values you live by, and then all of them are broken. So literally, it's the culture shock is more than there's almost no similarities in the
Mm.
way they live, but at the same time, the deep down root values, you can feel like it's the same. So they live a lot according to community, which is something I'm not used to, because especially we live in this culture where we're always fighting to be better and to reach the next step, but we go very much in a solo ride.
Yeah,
And
we
here
kind of forgot the whole community concept living in, yeah, developing countries.
yeah,
Yeah.
and here, like, they're never alone. Something is wrong with you, everyone knows. And it's not everyone in your family, it's everyone of your friends, it's everyone in the country. When after 1 week I've been here, I was like walking alone on the streets, and I was getting calls from my uncle, like, why are you on this street? I'm like, what? Yeah, my friend just saw you and then he called me, and I'm like, what? This is like the country? Okay. And this is just one aspect, which is something coming from this family. Like, also I've lived with this in my entire life, but here is more intense. But also I think, I wouldn't say they love more, because this is not something that's quantifiable, but they are more open to help the next person, whether it's someone you know or just someone on the street. So I see people helping other people without thinking, okay, I'm giving something as a favor and then I need to take something back, which is something I'm amazed. I'm like, okay, these people just give without boundaries, like they just give everything
Yeah.
they have. So I wanted to start this with like the positive notes, but then obviously you're asking me, and there's a lot of things that are still not. I cannot say behind, because it's just different, but it's not. There's a lot of things that obviously need improvement, and they've accepted it, but at the same time, it's hard. Starting with the political situation, which is not very stable, but I don't feel comfortable going too deep into it, because
Mhm,
a lot
obviously.
of times, yeah, a lot of times the phrase is just, they do this, they do that, everyone knows it, but then it's not documented, it just, so it's just
Yeah.
common sense. So I prefer not to go too deep from an outsider into that. But obviously, okay, now talking a little bit maybe about the economics, it's very unstable in a way, very cyclical. And yesterday I was having that conversation that the only source of revenue they have is this short-term revenue income that comes from the exportation of cashew nuts. So it's
Okay.
just these 3 months in a year where they actually make money in mass. So the remaining of the year is just external investment that comes into the country.
So
So they actually don't have money.
they mainly work like 3 months a year. That's where they make their own money without being external
Yes,
help. Okay.
yes. But even this money that they make, it's mostly, okay, it's just for you to have an image, like the minimum salary here is around 40 euros a month for like
Okay.
a shift of daily 8 hours, right?
Well, in dollars, that's
So
even less than $40. That's like
yeah,
30-ish dollars. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's the minimum salary. So a month, right? So a lot of people don't go to school, because all the schools that you have here are mostly private universities, and they pay like 30 euros a month per school. So I'd say like $30. And they don't have money to eat and go to university at the same time. So a lot of people don't go to university because they cannot afford it. And even for these investments, which I'm talking about, it's just for big investors, which are not Guinean, right? So they come from Senegal, they come from Portugal, they even come from the UK to be able to engage in this business. So what happens with the money? The money comes, the money is used to buy all these, then they are exported to India. From India, they go to Europe, and the money stays in these people that just come and then leave. So the money don't actually stay in the country, you know, the money leaves.
This is actually quite interesting because the first time you told me about that whole situation, it's funny to think that I thought that the fruit came from India directly. So a lot of the work that goes behind it, we don't even know about it.
Mm.
And maybe it's just me, but I was stunned when you told me, yeah, that the whole process starts in Guinea, and I was like, no, wait, I thought it was India, and you were like, no, after Guinea, it goes to India. So it's actually mind blowing that we're forgetting a huge part of the process here, which starts in these types of countries, and we don't even know about it in other countries like in Europe, for example.
Yeah, you just buy it. It's super expensive. You buy it like
Yeah,
for what, 70 euros a kilo, which is crazy because here they cost like 20 cents a kilo. Then they go to India and then they do the whole transformation. And I don't know if you want to go like deeper into economics, like you need to like stop me or guide
no,
me where you
you
want
can
me.
go, you can go. Yeah, it's fine. I'll just edit it out.
Okay, because I've been like actually researching this. So the economy has actually been stable until 2015, and then more or less stable until obviously COVID outbreak, which
Yeah.
just exploded everything. And in the last 3 years, the cashew business has been very, very small, almost non-existent, because the government is engaging in a price war with the sellers.
Okay.
So imagine you should buy it from May. So you should start buying it in May, like right now. But sometimes the government do not allow for the financing because, I mean, who has like €1 million in their pockets? You know, you
Yeah.
need to ask it from the bank. So they don't allow this financing before end of May. So in June starts what? The rainy season. And the rainy season is going to damage the cashew nuts, right? So you're going to buy it for cheap, but you're going to sell it for much cheaper, or even the people from India or Vietnam where they sell it are going to say like, oh, you know what, like now we don't want it because like it's been raining, they're probably rotten. So then you buy all these and then nothing happens. So the government does this so that they can have more money, so that people can afford to pay more money previously. So they engage in this like price war, but they don't understand that this is actually damaging the country since it's the only source of revenue, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole, we want more money, and more money is good, but we're kind of forgetting the population situation and the whole social concept of living. And yeah, that's kind of hard when you have those types of government, but we won't get into very deeply into the whole situation about the government in
Yeah.
Guinea, because I don't think we are the right persons to be actually discussing that right now, and I don't want to give any false accusations or false statements right here. But tell me more about your cultural shocks in the social sense. What do you find that it was like super different from where you were coming from?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is, so I want to talk maybe about kids and education and about
Yeah.
women,
Okay.
if we go further into that. Okay, so considering education, there's like 3 volunteers that are here from Portugal, actually from an association I'm collaborating with. So I visit them, I went to the school, I saw how it goes. And you have, this is a private school. This is one of the best schools in the country. So I'm gonna give you the example of one of the best schools, okay, like a college. So this goes from first grade until 12th grade. They have 4 rooms where they mix like 10th, 11th, and 12th grades in one. And then the other ones, they are mixed and they just go. And they have then 2 teachers, which like go from room to room. Okay. So they start in one room, then they go to another room, then they change. And the school is obviously still being built. And they have like one toilet for everyone. And kids, for example, the first grade, you in Europe, you start with like what, 5, 6 years
Yeah, five,
old.
six.
And here they start with like 8 or 9, or when they feel like something like this. So you can find, for example, I met a guy who he was older than me. He was like 27 and he was still finished 11th grade. And I was like, okay,
Okay.
it's different. So they study, they need to pay a lot of money for school, and then they have to work on the side. So for example, if you go to the market or if you just go on the streets, you're going to find a lot of children working. So they are born and they become money machines, and education is not a priority since they are capable of working. So
Yeah.
the economy is mostly informal, right? So they sell fruit, they get things, they sell like these packs of water, like that's mostly what they sell, and clothes and stuff like that. So if you're gonna study to then do that, then studying is not a priority, and you can just do that when you're like 5 years old.
Yeah, I
Which
think
is
that
crazy.
just in a nutshell, they, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they believe that education, it's not a necessity, but a luxury for some
Yeah,
to have.
yeah. So why would you go to school? And
Which,
for example, I had this thing, which obviously it's not me. Like I'm not saying, I'm not judging. I'm just staying in my place. And they are like, she's white, she's smart. And I was like, what? They downgrade themselves, they undervalue themselves. The other day I was just like doing something, and they were like, can you help me take a coffee? And I was like, sure. And it's a coffee machine, obviously. Like
yeah,
I open it, I put the thing, I take it, and everyone's like super impressed. And I was like, I can teach you if you want. And they're like, no, 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 we don't know how to do it. You're white, so you're smart. This is something a black person would never do. And I was like, what? Like, don't talk about that, or like about yourselves. That's not true. Like, obviously you can learn. It's just, I
there's a,
have this in my house, so I'm used to it. Like,
there's a whole discussion that we could go into regarding colonies and stuff like that, and white supremacy in African countries. And as Portuguese, we know this better than anyone about colonies and colonization in African countries. And I think, yeah, just a small shortcut here. Yeah, so we're both Portuguese, and Portugal has a great connection with Portuguese speaking countries, and most of them are in
mhm,
Africa. And that's why those three volunteers are actually probably from Portugal because of that, because we
mhm.
have that years long connection with African countries and Portuguese speaking countries. Um, but yeah, besides education, what else did you find completely mind blowing for you? Is the
Okay,
lifestyle
so
different, like the way that they live?
oh yes, working is not a thing here. Working and rushing and having to go places, that's not a thing. Like if you don't have to work, that's perfect. Like if you can just stay all day like chilling, just on your balcony doing something, going to visit your friends, your family, that's perfect. There's no necessity from working, especially from women, which is something then I see that it turns like to the other side, since it's a very manly dominated culture. And you see
Mm.
it in the way, like for example, if you are a woman and you are in a group of women, then you see there's a different dynamic from when you are with the same group and then you have the respective man there. So they just don't talk at all. They don't express their opinions, which is something sometimes I'm like it's bad because like there's this women empowerment, like we need to talk, we need to put our voices out there. And then when you see like men are talking and they have opinions, because then when they're alone they talk about what they would like to say, but then when they are there they just like the man sort of represents the woman's views, which obviously it's not true, but they just don't talk. It's like
Yeah,
it's on one hand what happens, and it's the other hand like the same thing I was saying before. They just put themselves in place because they don't know any other way. So to get
yeah.
out of this, like
I mean,
yeah.
that was what was going on. The whole women's rights movement is still going on in developed countries, even in the United States, which we considered one of the richest economies. So that's still going on there. And seeing that happening in developing countries, you just get an awareness that there's so much to do in order to achieve the equal rights for both genders. And the whole situation of when there's a man present in the conversation or in the group, they represent your voice. That was just like us like 50 years ago. So you have the man of the house, and he's the one that gets the final word, and what he says goes. But Yeah, that's another whole topic that it's still going on. And just to make a small connection here, we're actually fighting towards equal rights right now. And we have the Girls Lead Act, which empowers little girls in developing countries to go through school and to complete their education, not just to, get a word in conversations with men, but in order to prevent like early marriages, which sometimes can bring a whole other consequences to the table, like for example, leading to decreasing life quality. And not having an education obviously will affect the whole job situation. You won't be able to have a job, you won't be able to have a better life. And just the small fact that little girl can have education just give her power to become more empowered in society and get to speak in groups, and make her see that she's not just what the man of the house is saying. And that's obviously one of my favorite topics and close to my heart. But I think it's really important to see that there's actually people trying to help towards
Mhm.
women empowerment, but there's still a long way to the end goal, which is having equal rights and making women feel just as right and just as equal as men. And there's a long road to achieve that. And even developed countries haven't achieved that. So yeah, that's a, a whole other conversation that we could be having. You know me, I
All conversations we can go to every
yeah, yeah.
place.
Well, you know me, I
Yeah.
could spend here all day talking about this. And we have a whole dynamic where we kind of drift off subject and we go into other discussions and we bring it back. Yeah. That's just us and our dynamic. Yeah. So you were talking about education, and in the beginning you told us that you went to Thailand and you were a teacher there. So do you think that it was different, the Thailand teaching methods, and for example the years that they start school from Guinea, which is pretty much across the globe? Do you think it's
um, yes, I wouldn't. I would say that in Asia they are a bit more conscious of education, and it's easier for them compared to Africa. But also, I'm talking about Thailand, one country I've been in, and I'm
yeah,
talking about Guinea, and so I cannot
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
generalize to the whole
Generalize,
continent.
obviously.
Yeah, but in Thailand, I think it's more accessible for children to actually go to school than in Guinea, because especially because here they just have so many kids. It's like
Yeah,
you imagine they don't think like, okay, if I put one in school, I have to put all of them. So if I don't have money for all of them, that none of them is gonna go. And in Thailand, in general, they don't have like here, literally, they have like 10 kids. They have 10, 9 kids, 8 kids. And I'm like, how can you have so many kids? And they're like 1 year away from each other. And then they start working. So they don't have this consciousness that they actually need to put them in school because they're spending money and instead of gaining money. So it's like a reverse benefit. And in Thailand, they do have that conscious, especially because the government helps some kids when they want to go into higher education. So yeah, but you still see kids working, but I never saw uh, like kids with like 3 years old working, which is something that for me was most shocking. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of those things that that happen, but until you see it, you won't believe it. Like it's unconscious almost. You know that it's there, but and that's the whole purpose, like, of this interview is getting out there a voice, in this case your voice, of a first-hand experience going through all of this. Because obviously I think that everyone knows that there's problems in developing countries and the whole situation of having 3-year-old kids working, but they don't actually acknowledge it until someone tells them, yeah, I've lived through that and that's actually going on, or until they see it for themselves. So this is like a coronavirus free way of giving that experience to people, and that's my intuition for this whole interview. um if you could choose like 2 or 3 areas from what you've seen in your 22 years of life, if you could choose where do you think those countries need most help?
If I could choose like 3 countries.
No, no, no. If you could choose like areas, where do you think that help is most needed in those countries?
Oh, okay. So let me think. So on one hand, I think it was really interesting and true what you were talking about before. So in helping people and empowering women in education, which is something Nelson Mandela also talks about a lot, and I love that guy. He's just done amazing things. So education is the key to change the world. And it starts from the back to the forth. You cannot try to impose education to adults. You should do it from when they're kids, so that they actually have knowledge, become knowledgeable adults, and then teach it to the below generations. So I think the most important thing would actually be education, like in
Yeah.
all countries, wherever the countries. And it's not just forcing education into them, but adding these interests in them wanting to know about topics themselves. So want to explore, become ambitious, knowing that there are other ways of living, that there's just working for your parents, selling flowers or mangoes or wherever they sell. So education will be the first thing. So making it, I don't know if this is possible, but this would be a perfect world in which education, especially until like 12th grade, would be supplemented by the government. So it would be free for the entire nation or just for a very reduced cost. These would be the key to
Mm.
everything. And I think from here,
You're
then
saying like,
you tell me.
sorry, yeah, but you were saying not only having education, obviously, and schools and means to actually teach people, but you said something very interesting, which is shifting their perception towards education. And I think that's one of like the root problems about not having education or people not pursuing education in these countries is their perception to what is actually education. Why do I need it if I'm going to just work in this my
Mhm.
whole life and I'm doing it now just fine without having to go to school? And I think that's very interesting what you said, which is shifting their perception of education.
Yeah, which also we can do the comparison, but I'm not gonna go into that. That like if you give them, if you allow these kids to go to school, the majority are just happy. They are purely grateful for being able to go to school and interact with our kids and learn and have books. But at the same time, some of them are ashamed to when they compare themselves with other people, with that they don't know things. So, for example, you have kids like asking for dictionaries, but in secret. So it's like, teacher, I want to learn English. Could you get me a dictionary? But don't tell anyone. Like, why are you studying? Why do you need to be studying? So the whole education system needs to be shifted, needs to be accessible, and needs to just be made fun and interesting, and for them to actually want to be there because they need to know that they have more opportunities. That would be the first thing. And also, if you just get this, then you obviously go into women empowerment, which is the second topic. Because like I was even thinking about this yesterday, like when you picture a powerful woman, you think, okay, she's even more powerful than the man in a certain way because of all the road that she had to go through. Like, just okay, I'm a woman, I can do it. So when you get this, you get a civilization in which equality is a topic. And I know you're like smiling because you're like, okay, we can go forever into this.
We could go forever, yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. And also the whole sexuality topic, because it's like sometimes they have 8 kids or they have 10 kids because they think, okay, I'm not going to go into religion as well, but it's like, I'm Catholic, I do not wear condoms. And if I do not wear condoms, then every time we do it, I get pregnant, or almost every time. So a woman that has 10 kids, it's not that, okay, she has a lot of kids. No, it's a woman that doesn't have energy, because I cannot imagine having 1 kid or 2 kids. Just having 10 kids, like your body just can't take it. So you're just a kid making machine. So this whole sexuality topic needs to be also talked about when we talk about education. And I think with education, like, you can solve most problems, like if you can do it.
Mhm.
And then obviously there's a lot of issues with health. and sanitation. So this will be maybe my third topic, because you see most people, they still do not have water. Here
Yeah.
it's better. Here it's better, but still, how would you imagine you are in the conversation and people are like, what, you have water? What, you have electricity? Like, you think that's granted, but no, they have to still walk like kilometers to get to fill these tanks and bring it back. And then it's for them to cook, it's for them to drink, and it's for them to just take a shower. It just becomes so conscious. Like, okay, in my uncle's house, I have water, but I've been to some friends of them houses and other family, and I have to just take a shower with like these little cups. So I just become super conscious. I'm like, one cup, I'm like, okay, this gives for my entire body. Because I just imagine how long these people have to walk to get that much water. And that's for everyone. So somehow I think Bill Gates is doing an amazing job with this.
It is, yeah.
And
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they're actually been featured in some of our articles, and they have an amazing foundation towards that. And yeah, a big shout out to them because they do amazing work regarding that.
yeah, but I still think, like, for example, even when people come to volunteer, they come as, for example, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't go like that to Thailand. Like, okay, it's fun, like you want to help, I'm going to have an impact. You're not going to have any impact. You're one volunteer. For the most part, where I got was a cultural shock, was awareness, was this gain of consciousness that then I bring back with me and I try to give other people. But the impact that I had there, I was there for 6 weeks. Like, it's not these volunteers that are going to go there and help. So this is not where I'm saying, oh, just go and teach, just go and do this. You gotta be aware that the impact that you're going to have is minimum, and you cannot be frustrated about it, because people who can actually help are the people who has the power, are the people who have the money. And
Yeah.
that's not me and you. That's bigger institutions. That's Bill and Melinda Gates foundations. That's Warren Buffett Foundation, which is also doing amazing things. That's not us. That's us telling what could be done, but that's not us that actually have the power to help. I believe like awareness is a big topic,
Yeah.
but it's still, there's more that is needed. There's more
That's very
awareness.
controversial. I hope you know that. Because don't you
Why?
believe that having, I'm not saying and taking the credit of big NGOs and organizations, but having a lot of small organizations doing the work, doesn't that add up to like one big organization or two?
Okay, in that sense, sure. Like, organizations are also doing amazing jobs, especially locally. So, for example, okay, I don't remember a lot of names, but I know organizations that are working locally, so in specific regions, in specific countries, and these, yes, these obviously does something. I'm talking about individuals like me and you, or like other
Mhm.
people that we know from our college, from our country, from just in general, that wants to go to developing countries because they want to teach English, they want to be with animals, with, because they think they're going to help, and those are not going to help. It's probably fun. If I also believe then, when you help people around you, your community, this is very important, but you gotta be aware then, me going to Thailand, it's not gonna change the education system, even if I'd be there for an entire year, because I'm like helping one class, two classes, like I can't do more. But organizations for sure, that adds up. And even, I mean, big volunteer organizations, they also add up to like a big change. But it still needs more. There's so much more that needs to be done. I just cannot like reinforce this enough.
Okay. Last question. I hope you're ready. You
Tell
good for
me.
it? Okay. As a person that lives in Europe, me and you, obviously, but I want your opinion on this. So, as a person that has lived in Europe and you've been throughout whole Europe backpacking and traveling and so on, but do you think that people in developed countries, for
Mhm.
example, our country, Germany, Spain, whatever, do you think that we are actually aware of what's happening in these countries, in like Guinea and Thailand and Mozambique? Do you think that we are aware?
Okay,
Don't
so
keep me that
if
look.
you ask me like real questions, I gotta give you the real answers because this is an honest talk. I don't think so, not at all. And it's like you may read it in. There's something that I've never been a fan of, which is reading something in books. I'm very much more living by experience. So if I want to know about Thailand, I'm not going to read it in a book. I'm going to go there. I'm going to see it. I'm going to see how it is. And even from that perspective, I feel like the way that people usually go to those places are either in a tourist way, which you are blinded from the outside, or even when you go through these organizations, which they are very careful in what they show you. And even when you go out there, you need to be conscious and open enough to actually search for things and to be like, oh, poor guys, like this is so wrong. They are worse than us. So I'm not going to say this is most people, but this is a very large piece of people that go to these places. So these are ones that actually go by living. What about the other ones that just don't go and feeling like, oh, poor guys, they do not have anything. It's not a place where I wanted to go, but they just stick into their little cute, beautiful worlds. And even if they are unconsciously aware, they just go on to their life. So what does their awareness does? It does nothing because they feel pity from these people, which is the last thing that you should be doing, because that helps no one. Like if you just pity, like, oh, poor guys. No, look, this is the reality. Now what can we do about it? I can't do anything. I can tell someone to do it, and this person tells another person, and that person tells another person. Maybe that creates a chain. But when you are just inside what you know, knowing about other places, it's irrelevant because there's no change being made. So it's not, my answer would be, it's not there is no awareness, but it's that there's no consciousness associated with this awareness that would actually lead to something changing.
Okay, so you're saying that pretty much all these matters and issues are being thrown under the rug. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
They know that it's there, but once it's under the rug, it stays there.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I don't blame them. I'm not saying that I blame them or anything. It's just how people choose to live, and everyone chooses for their life. So everyone, a lot of people tell me, why are you going to Guinea? There's nothing there. Like you barely have water. Why do you want to go there? I'm like, because it's a reality. Because that's also real. That's how people live. So don't think that you're better just because you have potable water that you can drink. So it's just a different reality. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a good answer. That was a very thoughtful answer. I liked it very much. Okay, this wraps up our small interview. Once again, thank you so much for coming and for helping me out and give awareness about what you're going through and what you have seen. And thank you so much for your experience. I will definitely leave your link below. I will leave my fundraiser link below and also the Borgen Project website in case the people that are viewing this still have some questions about what do we do, who are we, and I hope you have enjoyed it and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here again. As I said before, I think these are very interesting and important topics to talk about. So it was my absolute pleasure to be here. And thank you.
Thank you.